Hi, welcome to Backroad Journal, a production of the City of Willmar. Backroad Journal is a bi-monthly show about natural resources, conservation practices, outdoor recreation, and environmental issues in the Willmar and Kandiyohi County area. Today, we're out at Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center. We're going to talk to Dave Pederson and find out what Prairie Woods is all about and what they have to offer. Then from one prairie to the next, we're going to be going out to Prairie Pothole Day. We'll be talking with LeRoy Dahlke about this particular fundraiser for the Minnesota Waterfowl Association. But first we'll be starting out south of town to check out the purple martin roost with Dick Dahl. So stick around, we hope that you'll enjoy the show.
My name is Dick Dahl. I'm out at my house out here north of Willmar. I'm into purple martins because I just love nature. I've been with the purple martins for roughly, I suppose, close to about 20 some years now, ever since I've moved out here. I grew up in the little town of Richmond, Minnesota, on the way to St. Cloud. My father had purple martins when I grew up. Back in those days, everyone had a martin house. Martins to me, when I was growing up, was nothing but a bird that was in a house, and when you'd rap on the pole, they'd go flying out screaming. But they always were an interesting bird, and being my background, I've been always interested in nature, wildlife, a lot of hunting, a lot of trapping, doing everything like that. That when I bought this property out here, it was nothing but a bare open field. One of the first things I did, I'd put up a tall pole, bought myself a Mills Fleet Farm, just a basic house, put it up on the pole, and within the first year I had martins in it. This here house that I have here is called a T14. It's originally designed, would have one door that opened up that would expose all the compartments. I changed it just so that the drawers, so I don't have to, because you can get different age groups. You can have some up here that might be 18 days old. They might be getting close to skittish and they want to fly, and these ones are young ones that 9 days up to 18 days where you would want to ban them yet and take them out and things like that. We did lower this here one house because I did want to kind of go along and try doing a final nest check on some of these boxes. I haven't lowered them yet for the year, and to see if they all actually had made it out and fledged or not. Everything's been looking really good. This one didn't have any nest in it this year. All of these, my letterings, I know which one they are, but A, B, C, D, they all correspond to a chart that I keep track of everything. And this one's quite dirty inside. That doesn't look so good. We do. And you can see a nest, a typical nest. This is a mud dam that they actually build. A big mud dam to help prevent their eggs from falling out. Some of them will just use the nest material I put in there, and some of them will actually build big fancy things. Here's one bird that didn't fledge. It's you can see the red band and the silver one. Unfortunately, he had been flying around because his bands are clean. If they sit in the box, there is quite a bit of fecal matter that gets on them, but once they start flying, that cleans up. Just getting back to the houses, the house is very important. Without martin houses, the martins wouldn't survive no more. Back in the turn of the century when they came over, they got kind of somewhat documented proof that the American Indians were the original ones that started setting up gourds. And that's what this here plastic one mimics. And they would hang them around over their cornfields and stuff like that. And the martins would warn if crows and squirrels or raccoons or anything would get close to their cornfields and stuff, and they would help keep them out. With that, then they progressed American settlers came in, they started building houses, martins switched over to the housing, and now they say east of the Mississippi, martins are 100% dependent upon people. Back in the 40s and 50s, when my dad was youngster, and like I said, back when I was growing up, everybody had a martin house, everybody had martins, there was a lot of martins. But now you go drive anywhere through town, you'll see a martin house, but it's amongst inside the trees. A martin will not nest inside the trees like that. If the colony is large and the trees grow in on it, they can live there. But to start a colony, they want open spaces, and the reason for it is when a martin takes off and flies, he's got to drop down, and that's where he gets his speed. And it's the speed that helps him get away from the Cooper's hawks and predator birds that kill a lot of the birds. Yeah, these purple martins are a very unique bird in themselves. Other than being totally dependent upon us for their housing and stuff, they also live in colonies. The longer you have a colony, the longer they're there. Yeah, without people putting up the houses, that's where the martins are going to totally keep on declining, and it's the proper placement is what it is as much as anything. Purple martins are almost we believe they might be at a standstill now, where they might almost start coming back, but they were on a decline for an awful lot of years, and with dedicated landlords and stuff, we hope to reverse that trend. I've also been part of a banding study, bird banding study, where we've been banding the birds for the past 7 years, where I'll read the bands off my wires, off my poles, and then later on we'll be going down to a pre-migration martin roost south of Willmar. The birds congregate down there on the power wires, and we'll be trying to do some band reading a little bit later. My colony also was one of 3 colonies that originally started out where we installed geolocators on the birds. We had started with 24 geolocators. The geolocator is a very small little transmitter that collects light data. It collects data, but by feeding it into a computer, they know when the sun comes up and the sun goes down, and they can determine where that bird actually is. The only tricky part is it doesn't have enough battery life to carry a lot of transmitting in that, so the bird's got to fly down to South America, and when it comes back and it gets back here, you have to catch that bird and retrieve that, and then that geolocator information gets sent in. This is a map of the first geolocator that was released from Minnesota, that flew from Minnesota all the way down, stopped down in the Yucatan Peninsula, and then it went all the way down to Bulgaria, and then came back. But it's just a quick look. You know, a person doesn't realize how far they really go until you can see it on a map. And we're going to be going out to the purple martin roost. I do have some pictures of them on the lines and stuff, and this is what we would hope to see out in the cornfield. It just really depends upon where they choose to sit out in the cornfield tonight.
Well, this is our 32nd annual Prairie Pothole Day tomorrow, September 6th, and we have a lot of local exhibitors come out here. We have a lot of different displays. We have food available, food tents, and we have various raffle ticket items. Our main fundraisers are our general raffle and our this year Blast and Cash, formerly 10 gun, for raffle prizes. We don't charge admission, but we do ask people to buy some raffle tickets when they come in, hopefully $10 or more. We got a number of events for the kids, free for the kids, the kids archery shoot, kids BB gun shoot. We'll have the climbing wall this year. There's the Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center tent for Environmental Learning Center activities. So well, a whole bunch of things for the kids. We got behind us now, you can see that that's where the dog distance jumping, the slew scoot dog jumping is going to be, and that's a great spectator sport. They really like watching that, and it's always fun to see if the dogs are really going to leap off of there or plunge off of there, just what they're going to do. Some of them like to go around the dock instead of down the dock, so it's a lot of fun to watch, if nothing else.
You got a bad jump off of that. 17. 17. 17. Yeah. Hey, Andrew, come here. 11. Oh yeah, I knew that. I know where he was.
Good girl, here, come. Come. Come.
Across the pond, we've got the black powder shoot and the archery or hatchery throwing, if they want to try that. We've got the archery, walk-through archery course back there, and the Boy Scouts will be back there doing different things. And way back in the valley, we've got the various shooting events. There's 5 different shooting events back there that people can participate in. So it's a little something for everybody. Those that want to just come through here in the yard and enjoy the various exhibitors and the raffles and things like that, the food items, they're welcome to just come into the yard. But if they want to walk around a little more, we've got silent auction tent for them to look through, and we've got various exhibitors in the barn as well as spread out around the grounds. So like I say, there'll be a lot of different things going on for people. We want to have some education along with it. We don't just want them coming outside. We want them to see here, look at the pond, look at the wood duck boxes and nesting structures to get an idea that those are activities they can do at their place to help improve wildlife habitat. There's other things that can be done, and we'll have some exhibitors here that'll point some of that out in terms of removing woody vegetation from grasslands, managing grasslands, planting food plots, but wetland restorations, and that's a lot of what we've done with the monies we raise here. Are a lot of expenses, but once we get down to the profit margin, in addition to the education that we want to provide here, the funds we raise here, a lot are used toward wetland restoration projects. That's our primary goal for on-the-ground habitat activities, is to assist in as many wetland restoration projects as possible. The majority are in the Kandiyohi County area, but we have moved out into Swift County and Meeker County on some projects, and I think we've done a few down in Renville County. This summer we just had 2 projects completed. One on the Kandy WMA down in the south end, it's on the State Wildlife Management Area. We had a contractor come in and remove the volunteer trees, mostly green ash and red cedar, out over the grassland areas and around the one wetland. It was getting kind of choked in by trees, and we had the trees removed and the stumps treated so that they don't resprout. And that'll open it up for ducks and pheasants, make it better habitat. Otherwise, the trees make it too nice for perching sites along the wetland for owls and hawks to pick off ducks and pheasants and muskrats and stuff. So it was just a habitat improvement project there, and did the same thing on the Dietrich Lang, south part of Dietrich Lang. Had the volunteer trees removed on about 14 acres up there. We've done some of this on other areas in recent years, and then we did a seeding up on the Regal Prairie WMA a couple of years ago, a native prairie grass seeding. So we get into some, and we did on the Burr Oak lake unit, the waterfowl production area, a couple of years ago. Worked with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. That was a large grassland renovation. The trees were removed and it was worked up, and that whole area, that was about 80-90 acres. That was all reseeded to native prairie vegetation. That was through the Conservation Partners Legacy Grant, and we put money into that so we only have to put 10% into a Conservation Partners Legacy Grant. That's what the 2 retrieve removal projects were too. And that makes us stretch our dollars a lot further. If we have $10,000 to work with through that program, we can stretch it to $100,000. So it makes a big difference what we can accomplish with the amount of money we have. People that contribute to Prairie Pothole Day, the various area businesses. We have over 200 area businesses and individuals that support Prairie Pothole Day, either with a financial contribution or a donation of a gift or a gift certificate. But that all sets the basis for what we're capable of doing on Prairie Pothole Day itself. It helps set up the various raffles that we have and the general raffle and stuff. A lot of it goes toward prizes, but if it wasn't for the community support from the businesses and individuals, we wouldn't even be able to sponsor Prairie Pothole Day ourselves. It would just take too much. So their help is what really makes it possible. And then it's what we can generate through the raffle sales and the food sales and stuff here, and the shooting events and different things like that. It's what we actually generate on Prairie Pothole Day. And once we've met all our expenses, again, we've got some vendors that are fantastic in letting us carry the expense until after Prairie Pothole Day before we have to meet the payments on that stuff. So that's a bit of a challenge, but we've had fantastic cooperation from them. What it does is it allows us to get people outdoors and enjoy themselves outside. It provides them with some information on what's all happening, what's going on in the outdoors, some items that are available that they might be interested in, just in general as far as activities, just to kind of bring their interest level up a little bit and let them know a little bit more about what's going on that they might want to get out and do and participate in, or get an idea on something they can do on their property. Any number of things like that, and to have the kids have fun, but get involved in different things outdoors. And they like coming out to see the dogs retrieving, and there's a few individuals that bring puppies out that they have to sell and stuff, and kids, everybody enjoys playing with puppies. I know one family a couple of years ago, they came in with the idea they were going to buy a puppy, and they walked out with 2 puppies. So I can only imagine how that worked out, because I got a new puppy right now and he's a little terror, but 2 would be incredible. But anyway, it's just to get there, increase the awareness of for the outdoors, basically. And then, like I said, what the money we make, whatever projects, outdoor projects we can put money into that's going to benefit wildlife, waterfowl in particular, but waterfowl and wildlife, and then water quality. That's something else we always consider in the projects. Any wetland that gets restored, I mean, the immediate benefits are the water that's backed up and the vegetation that grows there, and the development of the wetland itself as far as the emergent aquatic plants that grow and the submerged aquatic plants, then the invertebrates that come to life in there, and that's food source for various birds and insects, waterfowl in particular from our standpoint. Well, you get the muskrat activity in a nice wetland, the mink activity, raccoons, well, some people might say we have too many raccoons, but they work around the wetland. You get your amphibians, your salamanders, and your frogs and toads and stuff that are around there, some snakes and stuff. And then your various songbirds that'll use the habitat. Wading birds, shorebirds, herons, egrets, certainly eagles will check an area out. You got your muskrats and stuff. Well, then you have your ducks too. You got water and vegetation and invertebrates. You're going to have ducks, and that's what a mallard hen or a wood duck hen, teal hen, needs those invertebrates both for themselves to increase protein level in their eggs and for the eggshell production and stuff when they lay their eggs in spring, and then later on to raise the ducklings they have to have that high protein food source. So that all goes to the habitat, and then you have to have the emergence around there for escape cover, because you do have the various predators that want to get them. And then mention turtles, but all the wetlands have turtles in them too as far as that goes. It's just, there's such a tremendous variety of life that exists around a given wetland, and we've helped restore hundreds of wetlands wetlands in the county over the last 32 years. It's great to drive around and see wetlands here and wetlands there that we've had at least some participation in having restored. And every single wetland, because of the vegetation that grows there and stuff, provides water quality benefits. There's some floodwater retention in some cases, maybe limited in some. If the wetland's full, obviously it's not going to hold water, but it slows it down. It slows the runout of it down. So it slows down a little bit of downstream flood water, but the way it allows sediments to filter out or settle down in the basin itself prior to running out, you have cleaner water coming out of any given wetland. And that water going downstream being cleaner benefits every lake and stream or another wetland downstream, but it benefits it all. And it eventually goes into the river system and into the Minnesota River or into the Crow River and then down to the Mississippi. So in a small way, we're doing small things that help benefit the Minnesota and the Mississippi River. We'd certainly welcome a new blood. We can always use more people. There's no such thing as too many people when you're working on the environment.
Well, I'm Dave Pederson. I'm the Executive Director at Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center. It's a beautiful 500-acre outdoor classroom with rolling hills, glacial terrain, forests, wetlands, prairie, just beautiful country. We have about 7 miles of trails. We have kids coming here from anywhere within a 100-mile radius. We'll serve about 22,000 people this year, and they're coming from all over. Today out in the wetland we have a group from Hutchinson. They're going to be doing some canoeing and some pond study. Right now they're out on the wetland walkway. We also have a challenge course, a shooting range, a facility where we do what we call time travel programs, living history programs. We have a Youth Energy Summit, which is mobilizing students in 40 communities throughout the state. So it's Prairie Woods, the place, is a part of what we're talking about today, I guess, and Prairie Woods, the organization, is another piece, our outreach as well. Well, beginning in the 1970s, regional environmental education, regional environmental education groups, councils were set up, and there was one that was set up in this region and became Prairie Woods and Prairie Woods Learning Center. So there's really kind of been two incarnations of Prairie Woods. The first started in 1977 with the regional education councils. That evolved into a group of people that developed Prairie Woods Learning Center, kind of the concept. They worked real hard at getting things going, had some grant money for several years, did a lot of good work, but then bumped into, as you recall, in the 80s there were 17% interest rates, and the idea of securing a piece of property and building something at that point seemed off the chart. So the organization actually became dormant for a period of time, but then was rekindled by another group of people who connected with some of the people in the first group in the later 1990s, and by 1992 the Kandiyohi County Commissioners were on board with the concept, and as was Wayne Thompson, the county coordinator. And just, we have to take our hats off and thank these guys, because they had a lot of foresight, and they were able to work with the Danielson family to secure the original 200 acres that Prairie Woods started out with. And then it's grown over time. The county's been able to add some property that belonged to the Hanson brothers, and we've added another 90 acres going out to County Road 29, and that's where this facility actually sits. We started doing programs out of the old farm site, and at that point there were trees growing up through old chicken coops and whatever, and it was scary to go in the barn because there was a foot of wet hay there, and you had to walk with your arms out in case you went through the floor, you know. But thousands of hours for both students and adult volunteers went into trying to bring the place back up to speed where we could use it. So we renovated the granary first, and then we're able to renovate the barn. So over time, I think we all got way more involved than we thought we would be. The county has just been a tremendous partner, and we were able to secure a bonding bill to put up the Westby building and the education building that we have today. And then 7 years ago, we were able to add to that facility by putting up the Linder Treehouse and the Earl B. Olson addition, which expanded our capacity tremendously. So just incrementally, day by day, kind of week by week, month by month, year by year, we've developed a really nice facility. Our funding comes from many different places. It's important for people to understand that Kandiyohi County actually owns the buildings and the grounds. And Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center is a nonprofit organization, a 501c3 nonprofit. We run the programs and we are stewards for this place. We take care of the place. The county provides some funding for operations and maintenance. Our other funding comes from program revenue. Schools that are coming are paying for that experience, groups that come out to the challenge course, the shooting range, whatever. A lot of those programs started with grant funding and then have transitioned into being able to largely support themselves with program revenue through program fees. Some important revenue comes to us through the building rentals that we have. So when people have weddings, meetings, family reunions, special events, any rental proceeds go to support programs, go to support the place. So it's kind of a combination of county funding, probably close to a third. That varies year to year. About a third would be program revenue, and about a third comes from grants, gifts, memberships, and other fundraisers. Well, there's a whole constellation of different programs that go on, and kind of all under the umbrella of learning to live well with self, others, and the environment. I mean, that's what we're about. We want to connect kids and adults with the natural world through outdoor recreation and environmental education. We feel like in order to care about something, you need to have direct experience with it. So in all program areas, it's very hands-on, it's really experiential. Some of the main program areas that we have are the environmental education programs that are primarily K through 12, with most of the students being in upper elementary, middle school. The Hutch group that we have today is a high school biology class. We also work with some college groups. In addition to that, we have a very active challenge course program, and we do team building programs, again with really all ages, from elementary age on up to athletic teams, student councils, and corporate groups. And we work with we have a tremendous number of partners, which include the schools that we're working with, but also a lot of the conservation groups like Minnesota Waterfowl Association, Ducks Unlimited, Minnesota Deer Hunters Association, Pheasants Forever, Isaac Walton League. I mean, to name a few, those are folks that are involved with us doing programs, you know, whether it's shooting sports or photography or canoeing or birding, you name it. You know, you're able to connect with somebody who shares that interest. Some of the outreach programs that we have going on are the Youth Energy Summit and Project Eco Voyager. And in Project Eco Voyager, we have a 34-foot Voyager canoe, holds about 20 people, and we take that around about a 75 to 100 mile radius of Prairie Woods. Last year we got about 2,000 kids out on the water. There are local waters to learn about local environmental issues, but also to have the experience of just being out on the water in a canoe. Well, Prairie Woods has a number of different programs and a number of different activity options, and one of the questions is, well, how do I get involved in that? So what Prairie Woods does best is work with organized groups on a reservation basis. So whether or not you want to get out on the sporting clays range, the challenge course, get involved with canoeing or archery, or set up an environmental ed program, schedule an overnight in our yurt, or to set up tents and come and camp out. All those things need to be scheduled ahead of time. So we have an exceptional group of staff, but it's a pretty small group, and we wear lots of different hats, and it's important that we schedule things ahead of time. people can certainly come out anytime during daylight hours and they can walk our trails. We have about 7 miles of trail that we maintain for hiking and then for skiing in the winter time. And in the winter you can come out on weekends and rent skis and snowshoes without a reservation. You can just show up during our scheduled hours for the trailhead and rent equipment and go out and ski. And if you'd like instruction as well, then we would need to set that up. It's best to set that up ahead of time. So yeah, there are a number of different options, but it is important to call ahead, talk with us, because we want to understand who you are, what your goals are for the day. Is it just recreation, or is it have an important educational component that you want to stress with your group? If you're going to work on team building on our challenge course, we really want to talk with you about, again, who is your group? We need to know how many people are going to come. What are your goals for the day? So when you walk away from Prairie Woods at the end of the day, you know that we had a great time. We were right on target with what we wanted to do. Right, we generate more electricity than what we consume at Prairie Woods over the course of the year. So we're net, you know, surplus of electric energy. So we generate our power with solar panels, solar photovoltaic panels, which are on the roof of the education building. And you may have noticed there's a tracker unit that sits out by the parking lot as you pull into Prairie Woods. And then behind us we have a 20 kilowatt Jacobs wind turbine. So between those two things we generate a little over 40,000 kilowatt hours a year, which is more than what we require to run the facility. Then we heat the facility primarily with biomass, with wood pellets, and we burn some corn when that's economical to do. Sometimes we'll burn a blend of that. We also have solar air heating panels that we have we developed along with John Duvall of 3 Seasons and More. We worked with him on the design and what we wanted to accomplish, and he really developed the design, put up the prototype, which has now been replicated on a number of buildings in our area. So, and those are just panels that absorb energy from the sun, and when the thermostat detects, okay, we're 80 degrees, let's go to work. So at 8:30 in the morning in February on a sunny day, we've got 80-degree air coming into our indoor climbing wall room. So it's really, it's neat. I mean, it works well. And over time, well, we also heat our shop with a combination wood boiler and solar hot water heating panels. And we heat our water in the education building with the solar hot water, with a Solar Skies hot water heater on the roof. So what we're trying to do are demonstrating readily available renewable energy technologies, things that we can all do in our homes as a way to just demonstrating good environmental stewardship, reducing our emissions related to burning oil and other fossil fuels, and try to reduce our carbon footprint as much as we can. So we want to be able to walk our talk and create demonstrations for people to come out and see it working, and then they can decide, well, hey, I could do this in my home or my business. This might be a good way to do it. We can talk to them about what we know. We don't sell anything, so we're going to just talk to people about the bumps and warts that we experience with the technology. What we do at Prairie Woods is try to connect people with the natural world, both through education and recreational pursuits. So what we do is what we call serious fun. We want people to come out to Prairie Woods, have fun, but also make a connection between what are we doing here that transfers back to our world at school, church, family, our community. You know, how do we work together? How do we encourage each other? How do we respect each other and learn to live well with self, others, and the environment? So over time, you know, Prairie Woods has grown from working with 800 people the first year to over 22,000. This year we're developing our outreach capacity significantly. Over the next 2 years with the Youth Energy Summit, we'll be working in 40 communities. And we're finding that there's interest to expand beyond that. I guess what I hope for Prairie Woods is that every day we're doing excellent programs, that we're connecting kids primarily. We're working with kids, but also, you know, people of all ages and families, adults, to have them connect to the outdoors, to the natural world, to understand that everything's connected. You know, our economy is based on our environment's ability to provide what we need. So we want to promote a long-term view of economic, environmental vitality in Kandiyohi County and the state. We don't think you need to sacrifice one for the other, and you can't sacrifice long-term sustainability for short-term gain. So living with that big picture ideas is what we hope kids are going to leave here with. I mean, the freckle-faced fourth graders that are clambering off the bus today are going to be, in a very short time, landowners, voters, employers, employees, parents, you name it. You know, they're going to be, they're the leaders. So we gotta do our best to educate them and just expose them in a way that they care, that they learn that, hey, I am connected to this place and I need to care about it. And these are some ways that I can care about it. And when I grow up, I'm going to care about it.